Hey, good morning, folks. Welcome to another edition of Lumberjack Logic Live. I'm your host, Neil Johnson. Excited to be with you and excited to share the news with you. Although we have some real problems in the great state of Minnesota. That's right. A land so beautiful, folks, that we have almost every biome located in the United States here in Minnesota. We've got plains, prairie, we've got the hardwood forests, we've got the boreal forest, we have what amounts to nearly mountains on the North Shore. In fact, some are called mountains, although not mountains like out in the West. And folks, now we, with all this beauty, with all that Minnesota has going for it, the Twin Cities seem hell bent on destruction. I'm not kidding you. It is absolutely mind numbing just how bad things are down in Minneapolis. It's appalling, actually. And so there's a guy, a state senator, who is running for the mayor of Minneapolis. Now, one of the things, so Minneapolis, although I don't live there, I have different representation up here in northern Minnesota. We have a much different mindset up here in northern Minnesota. My gosh, folks, I live off the grid. I'm stuck back in the woods. The driveway's a mile long, and it's not that I don't like people. It's just sometimes it's nice to keep the neighbors at bay. I don't know. I love the privacy, the peace. I love the independence. But it seems that our state is definitely has a problem with people living independently, and they certainly do down in the Twin Cities, and they certainly do with their mayor selection. It's absolutely appalling. And here's the problem. It's like out in New York. What was that guy's name out in New York? Mandami? Was that it? The New York mayor. I mean, he is just a far left freak as well. But those policies that come out of those large cities, folks, spread around and dictate policy for the rest of the state. Because that's the population center. So as goes the city, so goes the rest of the state, because that kind of thinking spreads into the statewide voting. That's why we have Tim Walz. So this actually is a real problem. Now, do me a favor, please do smash that like, do chat in with where you're from, folks. Want to mention my sponsor really quickly. That's right, that's Birch Gold, folks. You guys know I talk about them all the time, but I'll share a video with you later today from a guy by the name of Peter St. Ange. Gold, I got some Florida gold backs when I was down in the Florida. I was down in Florida, Tampa. But I am such a believer in sound money. I want us to end the Fed in the worst way. Folks, the Fed is one of the worst things that was ever perpetrated on us. And sound money in those sound money bills have passed in Florida, have passed in Texas, and some other states as well. And I think there's a movement. And if that ever happens, I just wonder what the limit is for gold. But you can get your free info kit on gold by texting the word lumberjack to 989898. Again, there's no obligation, just useful information. But remember, gold has gone up 40% in the last year, 22% in the last 6 months. There has not been a better asset class than precious metals. Silver has also climbed. I think I bought into silver at 19, and now it's up somewhere around 36, 35. I don't know exactly where it is today. I don't pay attention to it every day, because one of the things that you have to do is you have to not be so worried about the money you invest, that you're sitting there minding it every day. The fear of loss cannot be greater than the realization of gain. Anyways, text lumberjack to 989898. You can get your free info kit on gold. And you can also learn about converting an existing IRA or 401k or part of that into a gold-backed physical gold IRA. So anyhow, that's that. I want to bring this in, though, real quickly. Here you go, folks. Minnesota State Senator. So Dustin Grage is always posting about Minnesota. So if you want to follow some Minnesota politics on X, you can check this Dustin Grage out. But Minnesota State Senator Oman Fatah is running for mayor of Minneapolis. His record is packed with controversy and far left policies that would only push Minnesota's largest city deeper into chaos. Here's a deep dive into Minnesota's version of Zohran Mamdani. That's right. So there's Mamdani on the right here, and here's this character on the left. Now, interestingly, look, I've got no problem with youth. It's that's not. But I'm going to say something. I think somebody should have some experience when they're running a major city. This isn't just about how you manage finances, folks. Minneapolis is a wreck because our police force is a wreck right now. Not because the officers are wrecks, but because they have constantly had politically aligned police chiefs. You remember the George Floyd riots? Do you remember when Michael Brown ran around hands up, don't shoot? That was a false narrative, by the way. He never had his hands up. He was never saying don't shoot. He was a huge guy trying to take a gun from a police officer. Those riots that started in Ferguson, Missouri, they spread up to Minneapolis. And folks, I'll tell you something really crazy. My brother was one of the leaders out there with the bullhorn. If you want to know just how polar opposite we can be in a family, my brother was down there leading the charge over the Michael Brown hands up, don't shoot protests. I'm not kidding you. You could have seen him on the news out there. Dude's like 7 foot tall. I love my brother, though. I'm telling you what, don't ever give up on your family. Don't ever say that nobody can change. Don't ever say that anybody's too far gone. Don't do that. I'm serious, because if God had done that with you, he would have thrown down that cross, would have not ever put himself up on it. He could have easily said, look, they wanted to take Barabbas, okay, and set him free, the murderer, instead of Jesus, who only healed people, okay? So don't give up on people. Don't be the one to cause that kind of, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. Don't be the person to do that, okay? Just don't, please, for the love of all things, do not do that. Okay, yes, legacy of Obama. I saw that down there, DMC. It is absolutely true, because Obama, he did more to create race division in this country than anybody else. I mean, let me ask you a question. We'll get back to this mayor quick, but I want to ask you a question first. I'm going to adjust my computer. Go back to the 90s. Who was the most famous athlete, period, bar none, of any sport in the 1990s? Let me just see you guys comment on this in the chat. I want to see this. Okay. Come on. Let's see it. Who was the number one athlete, any sport, didn't matter. Okay. No, well, it wasn't Bruce Jenner. Come on, people. Michael Jordan. That's right. MJ, by far, wasn't even close. Everybody wanted to what? Be like Mike. It was a song about it, for Pete's sakes. Nike was selling more Air Jordans. People were stealing Air Jordans because they were becoming so valuable. It was absolutely nuts. Michael Jordan was the number one athlete. Mind you, folks, what color was Michael Jordan? Okay, you can comment on that in the chat. Now, let me ask you another one. Who was the most famous person in music? He was called the King of Pop. His concerts were sold out everywhere. Girls were fainting. Weirdest thing I ever did see when he walked by. It was absolutely nuts. It was like some sort of idol worship, but I don't care about that. Who was the number one music star during the 80s, 90s? It wasn't even close. He sold more records than anybody. I mean, it's just not even close. That's right. Another MJ. That's right. Michael Jackson. I mean, even funny. They both MJ. Okay. Somebody broke on the scene in golf, took the PGA Tour by storm, winning all the tournaments, became absolutely the most iconic golfer of that age. What was his name? And what color was he? Let me ask another question. There was a talk show host. It was a gal. She was absolutely killing it. In fact, she became the richest woman in America. What was her name and what color was she? That's right. You folks got it. It's Tiger Woods, and he was black. We had Michael Jordan. He was black. We had MJ. He was black. And we had Oprah. That's right. And she was black. And let me ask you another question. Who was the best female vocalist of that time? The most famous female vocalist of that time as well. She ended up dying at a young age, far too young, but she was absolutely phenomenal. In fact, my daughter, who can sing, she's phenomenal, runs around singing her song all the time to this day. She was so good. That's right. Somebody just got it. Whitney Houston. And what color was she? Okay, now I want you to think that's the world we lived in. I can ask you one other. who is absolutely, without a doubt, one of the most popular actors, a guy who just dominated the silver screen, played a number of lead roles, okay? And people just thought the world of this guy. Come on, help me out here, folks. He is actually one of my favorite actors. He was so believable in the different roles he played. He played Westerns, he played sports, he played uh, um, not Bill Cosby. I'm not thinking Bill Cosby. Morgan Freeman's a good guess. Actually, Morgan Freeman was a phenomenal actor as well. Actually, Wesley Snipes. No, yeah, Denzel Washington. That's right. Wisdom Master Reviews. He, I think, was the highest paid leading actor at one point. So I tell you all that to tell you that then we had Barack Obama come in, and everything woke turns to you know what. Okay. And so he did more to create racial division in this country than anybody else, not even close. Okay. Oh, yeah. Don't forget Tyson, Mike Tyson. By the way, why is everybody so, you remember what Mike Tyson did, and then he became, people are okay with that guy now. It's really wild. Everybody hates Epstein, which I get. I mean, I'm not a fan of Epstein either, but it's funny that everybody's okay with Mike Tyson. He was an abuser, not a good man. Anyways, let's go to this. Okay, so here we go. We're back on to Senator Omar Fatah, who's running for the mayor of Minneapolis. Omar Fatah. Okay, well, here, let me just go. He's got a bunch of.
Minneapolis has produced.
Hold on.
You are for it. Tell us why.
Well, Minneapolis has produced story after story of police brutality and overreach. And this charter amendment will give us a chance to take a new approach to public safety, mainly a comprehensive public health approach that we haven't before. By building a public safety department that has both police as well as professionals that are qualified to deal with complex issues, we can intervene before issues escalate and get out of hand. So public safety, if you speak to everybody, will say that, yes, we believe it should be for all of our neighbors. It should not exclude people because they're poor or unhoused, or if they're Black or brown or Latino or in a medical crisis.
Well, let me ask you, sir, about this.
I don't believe this dude is old enough, has enough experience, so he certainly doesn't have the right thinking, okay? Anytime anybody talks about comprehensive public safety, folks, that is code word for BS, okay? But this guy does not have the experience or ability. It's great to have ideas, but the ideas need to be time tested, okay? I don't know completely where this guy at, other than his ideas suck.
Poll that was taken last week, that came out last week. It's by the Star Tribune, Care 11, NPR, and also Frontline. And it basically said that 49 to 41% people do favor the amendment, so they're with you. But when it broke down in terms of race, it found that 51% of whites polled are for this amendment. They want to replace the police department. But when blacks were surveyed, 42%, only 42% said they supported doing away with the police department. 47% were against it. Do you think this poll is wrong, or are they saying something that there's a difference between white and black voters, how they look at this?
Well, I think that there has been a misinformation campaign.
Oh, folks, see, here's the thing. The problem with these white people in Minneapolis is they live in gentrified neighborhoods, okay? If you go down to Minneapolis and you go up to the neighborhood up the hill from the Walker Arts Center, I mean, those homes, they're big, old money homes. I knew a radiologist who actually lived in one of those homes, spent some time there. It was literally a over 10,000 square foot mansion with multiple fireplaces, with not only they had the kitchen, and then they had this is going back to old world money with the servants' quarters, everything. So these people live in there, and they've always had police protection. They don't even understand what's really going on in the city. But the people who actually live in the difficult neighborhoods, those black people who live in those difficult neighborhoods, they don't want to see the police gone. Again, I've said this before, I'll say it again, but my friend who works in the police department down there, and other police officers I've talked to as well on Minneapolis Police Force, will tell you that hands down, the absolute worst person to deal with when they're out there managing riots are young white liberal women. White college-age women. They're absolutely nuts. And see, they're not, the people who live in these neighborhoods want a good police force. And yeah, they have paid private security. The city council of Minneapolis spent, I can't even remember how much on private security post riots. See, they have their security. They have their cocoon of safety. And these neighbors do not. Anyhow, it's just nuts. Okay, so let's go on. He's running on a platform of Trump proofing Minneapolis. That's all the Democrats have, of course, is Trump. Trump's bad. Okay, which means refusing to allow any coordination with federal agents whatsoever. Fatah even showed up to a federal drug and human trafficking raid in Minneapolis to resist law enforcement. That's right. Let's see this. I am at Bloomington and Lake to understand what's taking place this morning. On the scene are DHS, ICE, FBI, sheriffs, and MPD. No matter the reason, one thing is clear. This display of force is designed to strike fear at the very heart of Minneapolis. We stand in solidarity against it. Well, here's the thing. It's not designed to strike fear in the heart of Minneapolis. It's designed to get the illegal immigrants out. It was actually a drug bust, I believe, this one. We are now seeing officers put hands on the crowd that only wants to keep our neighborhoods and residents safe. Let me tell you something. This guy is a joke, okay? We're now seeing officers put hands on a crowd that only wants to keep our neighborhoods and residents safe. These people were trying to resist federal law enforcement from doing their job and stopping a drug bust, okay? We cannot be sanctuary city in name only. Mayor Fry says that he is prepared to stand up to Donald Trump and will protect our immigrant communities. His inaction last week on Tuesday, however, demonstrates his inability to effectively fight back against Donald Trump. This is what it's all about for this dude, Donald Trump.
You are for it. Tell us why.
Hold on. We're going to move on. This guy's a nut job, folks. Omar Fatah is no stranger to his using his authority to push back against investigative agency, especially when he frames it as racism, because everything's racism, folks. Okay, let's go here. Let's go.
How is that justice? Our state government has been highlighting or tackling or targeting, I should say, our immigrant businesses, whether it's MDE, DHS, MDH, consistently targeting our businesses, not from evidence, but based off suspicion. How is that justice?
Okay, no, they're doing it actually based off of evidence. By the way, here was the other picture. This was his post. I did not have that actually up on the screen when I was talking about it, but this is, do we support a mayor who treats Trump shocks troops with kid gloves while they brutalize residents? No, it's the supremacy of federal law is actually how that works out. Okay, so states are able to, manage most of their things and have on most of those things, but federal immigration law, there are actual federal crimes. And so federal agents are able to do that. Omar Fatah's controversies surrounding campaign finance doesn't end there, though. His campaign volunteer, Mus Muhammad, was convicted of lying to a grand jury about illegally handling absentee ballots linked to ballot harvesting. He's like, what's her name? Oh, come on, folks. What's
complaints against a Minneapolis state?
What's her name? The goofy one, Ilhan Omar.
Complaints against a Minneapolis state senator. As John Cromer reports, Senator Omar Fateh won't receive any major sanctions over his 2020 campaign.
2 testifiers with 2 attorneys with them.
This was the 4th hearing by the Senate Ethics Subcommittee about Senator Omar Fateh's 2020 campaign. A group of Republican senators accused Fateh of quid pro quo, claiming the Minneapolis Democrat sponsored a $500,000 grant to Somali TV in exchange for free advertising on that YouTube channel.
No, there's no standard rate. Sometimes we negotiate.
But Somali TV president Syed Salah today backed up what he'd already said in a written affidavit that Fateh paid for his campaign ads and video production. The problem is Fateh used his own money and did not report it as a campaign expense at the time, something that's since been corrected.
Or that has been recognized by the Campaign Finance Board.
The panel found no evidence of quid pro quo, but did agree Fateh should be ordered to get more campaign finance training.
Nothing sinister, so I just think that's important for us to remember.
The second complaint was that Fateh didn't...
Oh, I get it. He needed training on campaign finance.
to respond when his brother-in-law, Musa Muhammad, was convicted of lying to a federal grand jury about ballots he turned in on behalf of other voters in 2020 without their permission.
So based on the advice of my lawyer, I'm again going to invoke my Fifth Amendment right and decline to answer.
Dawson Kimyan was Fateh's campaign manager, but took the Fifth Amendment repeatedly when asked about the campaign. Eventually, the panel dropped the second complaint, finding no evidence that Fateh knew about the ballot situation. Now, the case now goes to the full Senate Rules Committee. It'll be up to them to decide whether or not to impose this proposed sanction against Senator Fateh, the sanction of more campaign finance training. That committee hasn't scheduled its next meeting. In St. Paul, John Croman, KARE 11 News.
Yeah, that's not going to happen here in Minnesota. He won't be held accountable, but Muhammad was sentenced to 2 years of probation. Wow, big crime, big punishment there, folks. Let's move on here. This is how bad this is. Okay, Omar Fateh has supported one of the most radical proposals of state senate, including free or reduced health care for illegal immigrants. Now you're going to watch those videos. You guys saw this debate taking place in Minnesota, if you're paying any attention to the news, but free health care for illegals. Two clips showing Fateh as a vocal protest attempting to shut down a press conference at the Minnesota State Capitol. They're willing to use all the rules for radical techniques. Omar Fateh has consistently opposed funding for law enforcement. Okay, let's listen to this one.
This year's presidential election makes many Americans afraid of what might happen to their families and their loved ones. In these uncertain times, bold and decisive action to protect our immigrant communities is necessary. We know that citizen and non-citizen residents live side by side, often within the same household. We should not waste resources chasing them down around at the demand of Donald Trump. And no Minnesotan should have to think twice about calling 911 because their car was stolen or their child has a medical emergency. This year's presidential election makes...
Okay, now it's just wild because I haven't, ever thought, oh my gosh, I can't call 911 because, I'm so worried about the immigrant community around me, the people who aren't citizens. It's fascinating to me how these people will continually prioritize quote unquote immigrants. They're not immigrants, folks. They're illegal aliens. They're illegals. Okay. They're here illegally. They broke the law when they came here illegally. All right. Stuff just continually blows my mind. Okay. We'll add this back in. This guy is the worst. Okay. He supports rent control ordinances. In other words, that is pricing rent. So this is interfering with the free market, public housing expansion, and policies framed as housing as a human right. Housing is not a human right, folks. You actually have to buy a house. You have to pay your rent. You don't work, you don't eat. That's what it is. Omar Fateh is a proud member of the Democratic Socialists of America. Again, this is, the Democratic Socialists of America have endorsed him. Okay. Golly, this is bad stuff. To be very clear, I do not care that Omar Fateh is Somali or Muslim. I care because he is a radical leftist pushing destructive policies. I have canvassed countless Somali households in Minnesota and helped coordinate roundtable meetings between GOP leaders and Somali business leaders across the state. That's the work that Dustin has done. I would argue that most Somalis are conservative at their core, but we have failed to earn their support. Heading into the midterms, we must do more to engage this coalition of voters who already share many of our values. We embrace conservatism regardless of their background. We reject communism and socialism regardless of their background. So here you can see some of the Somali community in the Trump hats. Trump did actually make major inroads into the Somali community. This was the guy talking about why he supported
the reason
Donald
why
Trump.
is because he's a fighter. That's it. We like fighters. More importantly, the left left us.
The left
They
left.
left us. 33% of our kids at third grade cannot read at grade level. We went from the 6th to what? 19th now? Minnesota in education? I mean, we are failing in every standard.
I think we're lower than 19th now, but this is why they are losing even the Somali community, folks. It's just absolutely wild. So I talked to you just briefly about this. I want you to listen to this guy, the fiat collapse acceleration. This is Peter St. Onge. I really actually enjoyed listening to some of his stuff. He's on X, but listen to this.
A new report from JP Morgan is calling for $4,000 gold as central banks and private investors continue stockpiling hundreds of tons of the mellow yellow. Beyond paying for a new swimming pool for gold bugs, this is a massive canary in the paper money coal mine. So Morgan's now predicting gold could go from $3,400 to $4,000 in the next 12 months. That's close to 25%. They blame a weaker dollar and rate cuts, but then zero in on the real problem, public debt. Specifically,
public debt, folks. Don't kid yourself. The reason our inflation is so bad, it's not because of tariffs. It's not because of all this other stuff. It is because of public debt. We have printed too much money. This fiat currency does not work.
Gold's role as a hedge against soaring government debt now past $100 trillion globally, plus another $100 trillion in debt we lovingly call paper money. As Morgan put it, gold is, quote, one of the most optimal hedges for debasement. Debasement meaning governments printing money to inflate away their debts and your dollar life savings. As central banks apparently agree, central banks around the world are buying gold hand over fist from China and India to Eastern Europe and OPEC countries. These have totaled over 1,000 tons in the past year, which is about what central banks bought in the entire decade of the 1980s. A few years ago, the governor of the...
Did you guys catch that? In the entire decade of the 80s. Okay, this is how much gold central banks are buying. There is something going on, folks. You can get your free info kit. I put the banner up there, but just listen to this guy.
Central bank actually admitted central bankers are buying gold as insurance against a paper money collapse, saying, quote, if the system collapses, the gold is a basis to rebuild. So the arsonists burning the world with paper money are buying insurance against their fire, which is fun. The problem is we're a lot closer to the tipping point than even central bankers recognize. To illustrate, before the 2008 crisis, the value of all above ground gold was about 7% of the value of fiat. So all gold in the world was worth $4.5 trillion versus 50 of fiat. Today, that 7% has tripled to over 20%.
Wow.
So 22 trillion of gold on just over 100 trillion of fiat. This matters because the vast majority of gold's price is not industrial and jewelry. Going by M2...
Folks, that was wild. I don't know if you just caught that, but you're looking at it. Did you hear how much the paper money supply had increased? They just make it out of thin air. Inflation is the cruelest tax of all.
Correlations, 90% of gold's price is a shadow bet on fiat collapsing. That bet went from 7% to 20%. Worse, it's accelerating. From the 90s up to the 2008 crisis, it was pretty steady. Then it jumped by a fifth in the financial crisis. Then it took off during COVID, going from 8.5% to 13% on the COVID money printing, and then jumping another 8 points in the aftermath of COVID, as in the failure of governments to reverse their COVID money grab. Put differently, according to gold, the 2008 bailouts bumped the odds of a fiat collapse by a fifth. The COVID spending orgy doubled it. So what's next? Brought to you by I Trust Capital. Mainstreamers hand-wave soaring gold as...
Folks, this is I don't know. You do what you want, but I mean, I just do not trust our monetary system. I do not trust our monetary system at all. So, again, you can go check out Birch Gold. Text Lumberjack to 989-898. I love you, folks. Keep fighting the good fight. We'll see you on the next episode. Peace out.